There are moments in life when we find ourselves standing at the edge, not to jump, but to look back at how far we've climbed and ask whether we still have the strength to keep going. I remember reading an interview with Morgan Freeman, the man whose voice has been famously called the voice of God in many films. But few know that before he rose to fame at age 52, Freeman went through what he described as the emptiest and darkest years of my life. He shared that there were times he almost lost faith. He was driving a night shift taxi, living in a tiny apartment in the Bronx, no roles, no way forward. His friends gradually left New York, but Freeman stayed for one simple reason. I didn't know where else to go, so I stayed. Then one day, he stepped into a small theater, not to audition, but just to escape the cold. The manager asked if he wanted to read for a part. Freeman walked on stage, said a few lines, and that was the beginning of it all. When recalling the story, he said something I'll never forget. Life doesn't take you to a destination, it brings you back to yourself. Sometimes, we feel like we've hit a dead end, but if we pause, if we listen inwardly, we might realize the path isn't out there somewhere. It begins within. In Buddhism, this moment is where mindfulness begins, not through struggling to escape, but through stopping to see clearly, and walking forward not by ego's demand, but in the flow of cause and condition. And the miracle is, when we stop forcing the way begins to open. In the next part, I'll share the story of an American woman who spent half her life in anxiety and loneliness, but found peace again in the most ordinary things. If you've ever felt tired or disconnected, maybe her story is yours too. Her name is Margaret. She's in her 60s, living in a small wooden house on the edge of Oregon. Her mornings used to begin with loud radio static, burnt toast, and nameless worries. But after her 2 grown kids moved out of state to start their own lives, the house fell into a silence she never expected. "I felt like I disappeared," she once said, "like I wasn't needed by anyone anymore." One early spring day, she saw a flyer pinned to the bulletin board at the local grocery store. Weekend meditation retreat. No religion, no pressure, just you and your breath. Without thinking much, she tore off a tab and tucked it into her coat pocket. The retreat was just 2 days, held at an old farmhouse. No bells, no chanting, no incense. Just a quiet yard, a few wooden chairs, and a soft-spoken teacher. But one sentence stayed with Margaret. You don't need to change anything. Just be fully present in whatever you're doing. From the day she returned, she began making coffee with her whole heart. No TV, no phone, just standing there, spooning the grounds, pouring hot water, and breathing in the aroma. "I realized the best part of coffee isn't the beans," she said, with a childlike gleam in her eyes. "It's the moment you're actually present enough to smell it." She planted a small bed of flowers by her porch and called it her gratitude garden. Each morning, before watering them, she whispered one line of thanks, sometimes as simple as, "Thank you for no rain this morning." I once asked Margaret, "How do you practice mindfulness out in the real world with all the noise and hurry?" She smiled. "I learned something at the retreat. Don't wait for the world to be quiet so you can be mindful. Be mindful in the world as it is." Now, when standing in long grocery lines, instead of getting impatient, she breathes. Eins. Inhale. 2. Exhale. And if the person in front of her looks tired, she smiles, not out of politeness, but from compassion. Everyone in that line is carrying something. I may not know their stories, but I know what it feels like to have lonely afternoons. That, she said, is mindfulness. You don't need to sit in silence for 30 minutes. Sometimes, just standing in line without judgment is a step toward awakening. When I asked what changed her the most after the retreat, she didn't mention Buddhism or any deep philosophy. She simply said, I learned to let go, to stop trying to control everything. And that leads us to the next part, why letting go isn't weakness, but a doorway to peace. Not everything we lose is a tragedy. Sometimes, the loss is what leads us back to ourselves. You probably know Oprah Winfrey, an icon of American media. But few realize that at age 14, Oprah was abused, ran away from home, and nearly became what she called a forgotten girl. She once shared, I used to resent my past. I wanted revenge, but Buddhism taught me this. Letting go doesn't mean forgiving those who hurt you. It means no longer letting them live in your mind every single day. There are things we simply cannot hold on to. Health fading with age, children growing up and moving far away, loved ones passing before we get to say goodbye. A viewer, over 70, once wrote to me, I was always the strong one, worked 40 years without stopping, but after retiring, I felt empty. I cleaned, watched TV, and sometimes cried quietly. That's not one story. It's the shared truth of millions of older adults in America. Psychologists call it retirement identity crisis. But Buddhism doesn't label it like that. Buddhism simply calls it the moment we're given the true chance to see ourselves. Can you see it? We spend our whole lives running to survive, running to raise kids, running to be recognized. And when nothing outside asks anything of us anymore, we're left not knowing what to do with ourselves. Buddhism doesn't ask us to run away from that feeling. It invites us to sit with it. No judgment, no fixing, just presence. Oprah once said, my transformation didn't begin with a talk show. It began when I sat alone and stopped fearing the darkness. Just like Margaret, she didn't fight the loneliness when her kids moved away. She learned how to sit beside it. And that is where peace begins. You can't control what others think. You can't hold back time. You can't escape the winters of life. But you can choose how you walk through them. You can choose to slow your breath, to notice sunlight falling across the table, to smile at a memory, and most importantly, to be kind to yourself. Buddhism doesn't promise a life without pain, but it offers a way to walk through the pain without losing yourself. In the final part, I'll show you something simple but powerful, how just 10 minutes a day can begin your journey toward mindful living. No temples needed, no fancy philosophy, just one breath, one moment of acceptance, and a shared path with others like you. We don't need a quiet mountaintop to find peace. Sometimes, all it takes is a chair by the window, a warm cup of tea, and a single present breath. I have a habit that younger folks find a little odd. Every morning, I sit for 10 minutes. No phone, no radio, no to-do list. Just sitting and breathing. Older friends I meet at the community center often ask me, how do I even begin practicing mindfulness or meditation? I don't know where to start. I always smile and say, you already have everything you need. You just haven't noticed it yet. 1. Sit still for 10 minutes each morning. No need for perfect posture or special mantras. Just sit upright, close your eyes gently, and notice your breath. You don't need to push thoughts away. Let them come and go like clouds drifting across the sky. 2. Brew a mindful cup of coffee. Slow down, smell the aroma, watch the water flow. Say to yourself, I'm alive, I'm here. 3. Listen to nature. Step outside or open a window, close your eyes. Hear the birds, the rustling leaves, the soft wind. They've been there all along. We just hadn't paused to listen. 4. Write one line of gratitude each night. Thank you for my health today. Thank you to the neighbor who smiled at me. Thank you, I made it through another day in peace. Getting older isn't the end. It's a doorway leading inward. When society no longer demands us to run, we finally get the chance to listen to ourselves. The Buddha isn't far away. The Buddha lives in your breath, in your steps, in your willingness to accept yourself, even as you age, weaken, or feel alone. And remember, you don't need to become spiritually perfect. You just need to be honest with what you feel and gentle with how you hold it. If any part of this story has helped you breathe a little easier, if you're looking for a quiet, judgment-free space to simply live more mindfully, I invite you to subscribe and walk alongside me in this weekly journey. And if someone you know is struggling, confused, discouraged, or just in need of a small reminder that everything will be okay, share this video with them. And if you've had a moment of awareness today, leave it in the comments. You never know, your reflection might be the light someone else needs tomorrow. Mindful living isn't about escaping life. It's about living fully, even when you're washing dishes, folding laundry, or sitting quietly under the evening sun. I'll see you in the next video. Together, we'll keep telling each other the stories that seem small, but might awaken an entire life.